Hello, everyone, and how are all of you doing? We are back. We are definitely back for another episode of Rob's Real and Ridiculous Podcast. It is episode number 62. 62, Man Cave Studios, Valley of the Sun. I hope you all have had a good week. I hope everything is going well. We have got a fantastic show for you today, and we're going to get started with this in just a minute. We've got Garvey the Boot Biggers has been on the show a couple of times now, the anniversary show. He came on as a solo a few months back, and he has some friends, U of A alum, that are going to be joining the podcast with us today, and we're going to get to them in just a quick second here. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Beer.
How's everyone doing?
Great.
Good. I know we're all at some different virtual locations. Dana, you're out in Dallas. Art, you're in Tucson. Garvey, I never know where you are. Where are you at today?
I'm in Phoenix today.
You are? Okay. And that's interesting. You got an Orioles hat on.
Well, that's because it's my thinking cap and my study cap, and the one that is probably pretty much world famous by now because all of my classmates in law school knew I wore it to every exam from 1981 to 1984.
For real?
Yes, he did.
Big guys? He did, huh?
I wore it just basically as a distraction, and my hair was always messed up because I was making my outlines right up until the time of the exam.
Gotcha.
And, so it was pretty much after an all-nighter,
After an all-nighter, so yeah.
He lived on coffee.
He lived on coffee. All right. I love
He
it.
also misstated one thing there. He said up till the time of the exam, he was working on his outline. In fact, one time he worked halfway through the exam doing his outline. Showed up about an hour and a half into the test, and we're all like, where's Garvey? He shows up, and it's like, where do I get the copy of the test? And we're like, what are you doing? But he did have a complete outline. He had a complete outline.
And did he do good on it?
I don't know. How'd you do, Garv?
I passed.
You passed.
Yeah, Rob. We all met in our first year of law school.
Yeah.
Kind of came from different.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Actually, I think Garvey, you knew Nick Vicula before.
Nick Vicula.
Right?
Okay.
I knew Nick. I knew Nick back in the days of high school and junior college, and then we ended up in the U of A law school together, and then.
And Nick was an ASU transfer, right? To U of A.
Yeah, he was a psychology major there.
Okay.
It was psychology, and he used his psychology to get him great success.
Yeah, and so we.
Yeah.
My background, I came from a small town in Douglas, Arizona, which is right on the border, and my undergraduate degree was in engineering, and in engineering. We would all get together, we would share everything, we'd work together on tests and do all of our stuff. But when I went to law school, that was the greatest concentration of unstable people that I had ever been around.
We contributed to that.
And it was like, wow. And so we just kind of formed a little group of four of us, and we shared everything with each other. We talked everything out about what we thought to do, to give our best shot at the best grade, because it was very competitive.
And I represented 90% of the wackadoodles.
90% of it. Yeah. How about you?
It was the beginning of a relationship. It's now 41 years.
Yeah, I thought I saw that in the email feed going back and forth. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And you've always, checking with each other along the way over the years. You guys have you had any get-togethers or anything like that?
Yeah. We're now good
down
for
memory
every
lane.
homecoming. Every homecoming for sure. Yeah,
nice.
At least one, and then like weddings, all kinds of stuff. It's been great.
Love it.
Yeah.
That's
we're
awesome.
Texting and teasing each other all the time.
Love it. Love it.
So the good thing about this is that Art stayed in Tucson.
Yep.
and soon became very successful attorney right away. Got season tickets. You know, him and his bride, his little honey, he got married to at the end. Right at the end of law school, like 10 days after graduation, or maybe even before graduation, but it was our third year. Art marries Jean, and then the two of them were the dynamic duo, you know, and they make all this money, and they had season tickets to the University of Arizona Wildcats right after Lute Olson took the helm.
Wow.
And so if we were lucky, every once in a while, Art would call us up and say, "Hey, you guys want to come down for a basketball game?" You know, and so
There's a lot of great games.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I even just, moving out here, like I mentioned to all of you a little bit prior to the show from Boston, just trying to get acclimated here with college sports. That was a team I took to as well when he was coaching. I thought he was a fantastic coach. Great teams. Kerr was on one of those teams, right? Steve Kerr?
Yes.
Yeah, he was
Right?
on the first team actually.
Right?
That very first team. He was sort of the one of the last guys added to that team, and no one had any idea who he was going to be.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Look at where he's at. Even Richard Jefferson, right? Did he play
Yeah.
under Lute as well? I mean, he's done well for himself, not to the level of Kerr, but he's on national TV for sports coverage with ESPN, and forget about what Kerr has done. So that's good stuff.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. I mean, Kerr, and that's the other thing too, people don't realize, but the guy that really was the ad there was Sean Elliott. Sean Elliott,
That's right. I forgot all
he
about
was a
Sean
Tucson
Elliott.
kid, Choya High. I mean,
Yeah.
he
Wow.
was really the first real big recruit. He and Craig McMillan. McMillan was a McDonald's All-American. But I mean,
Okay.
that was the thing. The first year he didn't have any recruits. He got Kerr at the last minute. And then from that, the next year with Sean Elliott, I mean, it just took off. It just grew from there.
I forgot all about Sean Elliott. And then I remember, I think when he was with the Spurs for a few years, didn't he have like a kidney removed or something like that?
Yeah,
You guys remember that, right? Am I right about that? Yeah.
Yeah, he was
sick,
real
right?
sick.
Yeah.
It was real sick. In fact, it was really, really cool. A client here in Dallas had seats, they're right on the court. Literally, the ball is like right there in front of you. And Elliot was doing the color for the Spurs at the time, and it was before the shoot around even. So I went and said hello and thanked him and told him, I'd been there, and couldn't have been a nicer guy. Just a classy guy that's lived through a lot. He's had a life experience. He's not a prima donna in any way.
Yep.
So great ambassador for the U of A.
Yeah, he seemed like he was that type. So we're as we kind of fast forward to where we're at now with the athletic programs at the U of A. I mean, do they need what do they need? From a coaching perspective, do you think on the basketball team? I know they've had a number of changes. Isn't the most recent coach out again as well, right? Am I right about that?
Yes.
Or okay.
But Rob, could I just throw in my 2 cents here? Is because
that's what it's all about. Throw it in.
I mean, I really like to live in the past when it comes to the U of A sporting program.
All right.
I mean,
take us back. Yeah.
But you have the 2 perfect guests when it comes to the U of A Wildcats current programs.
Yeah.
These two guys that know it all. I'm going to sit back and listen because they've already analyzed this thing through and through.
That's good to know because I'm going to be I was telling the guys before you came on, Garvey. So Madison, who you've met, my oldest, right? And at an event or two, she's going to be going to U of A next year. So I'm going to be up there. I'll be attending a sporting event. So I'm definitely going to be pretty entrenched into the sporting world up there for sure.
Well, Art's got a whole analysis going on.
We'll get you some tickets.
Nice. Love it.
So let me comment a little bit about Tommy Lloyd. Gonzaga he was their main assistant, and he had been there for like 20 some years. And it really was, I mean, Mark Few is the coach there, but it was really 1A and 1B. He did a tremendous amount of the recruiting, the whole package there. And Gonzaga has a really good reputation of skill development. Okay. And I think that is absolutely critical in the way college basketball is evolving. Mm-hmm. And when he came in here, he that was the first thing that he started talking about, was the development of skills. Because to me, Miller, I liked Miller. He was very blue collar. He was too much of a control freak. He had a lot of things that I disagreed with a basketball perspective, but he really wasn't. He wasn't community. He wasn't. He didn't let his coaches help. I mean, it was all kind of, this is the way we're going to do it. That's it.
Too controlling.
Very controlling, and
Yep.
and it's hard, I think, in long term to be successful doing that.
I agree.
Unless you get players, unless you buy players. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
and
and the thing I'd say about that is that you look at it, and the one thing Sean Miller did incredibly well, and we don't need to say how he did it because no one really knows, but he did get players to come to the U of A that were incredible talents, but they had two flaws, and one was they didn't stay very long, and the other was that while they were there, they were looking to the next level. I mean, you really look, there were very few players. I think they did this analysis in terms of players that actually played. The number that lasted 4 years under Sean Miller was very few, and the ones that lasted, all had some kind of flaw. I mean, like a guy like Dusan Ristic was a great player, in many ways, but he could not play defense to save his life. And at the end of the day, those flaws were the reason they could never get to the next level. I mean, there were just too many flaws in the people that were there for 4 years, and all the guys that stayed for one. I mean, no one wants to think about this, but I mean, you had DeAndre Ayton, and in his last game, they lost to the University of Buffalo by how many?
Well, like
How many was it, Dana?
I forgot.
How many was
It
it?
was more than I can count.
I forgot.
I think it was.
Ayton
I think it
from
was
there.
20, somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah.
Wow, I forgot
And they
Ayton was
quit.
there.
And they
Yeah.
just quit.
The one thing, and you guys please chime in, a couple things I've just kind of observed over the years with basketball, college basketball is, number one, recruiting's tough, right? We all know that. So if you've got a program that's not performing, right, you try to bring in a coach, like you mentioned, Miller, to attract recruits to come over. The other thing is, keeping them, right? Keeping these players that are good. I'm not a fan of the one and done type of thing. I think there's some NBA guys that come out that can do the one and done, right, and get into the NBA and perform. I think there's, just in my opinion, there's a lot of personal growth that happens in colleges where you get 2-3 years in under a good program. You're doing a lot of other type of learning outside of the game, how to carry yourself, how to be mature, how to act, be a better player. And it's kind of weird, and I'll just bring this up real quick because I know Peyton Pritchard for the Celtics. For those of you that follow, I know a couple of you follow the Celtics. What he spent, I think, 4 years at Oregon, I think, wherever it was, right? I mean, great. He's not an elite player, but I think he's capable of being a starter or a very good backup like he is for Boston. You could just see the maturity in how he plays the game. You can almost get him on the court right away and really not lose too much. And I think it's that balance, right, to find out, it's just, even all the good programs, right? The Kentuckys, the Dukes, they're losing players after 1 year. I'm not a big fan of it.
No,
Well,
and it's impossible to really become a fan of the players in
Right.
college
So
when
true.
they're going to be gone in a year.
That's
I mean,
true. How do you grow with the team, right?
Yeah,
That's true.
But I think moving forward for the future, if you're going to be an elite basketball program in college, I think you've got to focus on two things. One is getting a solid reputation as developing skills.
Yep.
And that's going to involve probably the dad, because that's what he's going to want to hear. And he's probably going to want to have some input about that.
Sure.
And so you have to placate that. And then the second part is to have a focus on the development of the kid overall. I mean, that you genuinely care for him. And that's what the mom is going to be looking at.
Yep.
And if you start establishing that, and then if you only recruit maybe the 10 through 40, just focus on that, because the top 10 if you get one of the top 3 to 5 players, that guy's going to be a stud. Okay. The other ones, it's all kind of, you're not really sure. And you're now competing with the G League where they can get a ton of money to go play instead of this. And whereas if you keep it 20 to 40 and you focus on committing that, having them commit to staying at least 2 years so that you can get some mileage out of that. And I think if you developed a reputation and did your program that way, and that is going to involve an intense amount of networking with the parents, with the AAU club coach. I mean, I did a lot of club basketball with my kids when we were growing up, and I see how a lot of those good coaches in the club programs think, and they think of those kids as their own. And if you're not playing my kid, maybe you're not going to get the next round of players from my we're going to go take them over to UCLA.
Right. It's true. Yeah.
So you've really got to think that through.
Yeah, it's big, and culture's huge, right? I mean, building that culture is what is what's also going to attract the students. So, and it's building a great program.
And that's one of the things Tommy Lloyd's got going for him is nobody's got a better reputation in Europe. I mean, he's got that market, and ironically, Miller had started to mine Europe as well, and so you put the combination of players that are there now, and then what Lloyd's already got going over there. I just got to believe that they're going to get some of the top players from Europe. And in the situation, it seems to be a little different because the European players that we've had come in, or international, let's say, not all European because they're not all from Europe. They tend to stay. I mean, they're not gone after 1 year, and some of them, frankly, on this team right now, I think we're better than the group that left. En masse. 3 guys all left after 1 year. One not a first round pick. No guaranteed contracts. I think it's interesting to see the difference that Lloyd's people maybe will have just in their willingness to stay.
Yeah.
And hopefully that bodes well for the program.
I mean, Dana's the king of trivia here. He can throw out all kinds of questions and baffle the best of them. But I'm just wondering if has a U of A Wildcat graduate ever played for the Boston Celtics?
That's a good question.
Kadeem Allen did. Kadeem Allen played. Kind of played. He sat on the bench.
He made it. He made it to the team because I mean, the one common thread here that between all of us is, well, I don't know about Dana really, but my dislike for the Boston Celtics, and then Art's and Rob's love for the Boston Celtics, and Rob, if you just let Art go a little bit on the Celtics, he's got more garbage to talk about than you can.
Well, he wanted to bring some stuff up. Yeah.
My love for the Celtics stemmed from I actually was born in Oklahoma in 1969. My dad always used to watch the basketball, and I watched them play the Lakers. And the Lakers that year, I think they had the longest win streak at the time. In the regular season, had a super records. The Celtics were one of the last teams to get in. I think all 5 players were over 30. I think Havlicek was 29, but they were all really old. I think Russell was going to retire, so they barely got in. They beat Philadelphia in 7 games in the East Finals to get to the finals against the Lakers, and they had to beat Philly in Philly. And so they go into LA on the 7th game and they beat the Lakers. And it was I just thought, wow, that was such a dynamic leadership that Bill Russell had. And that was
he was amazing. Still is.
That was
right?
it.
Still has a strong presence, both, social, the social that are going on right now, obviously. And then still, true to the Celtics, he's helped out a lot of the young kids develop there just as a mentor that sits by. So, interesting. I heard a potential opportunity of Steve Kerr maybe moving on from Golden State. And when you and I were talking before, and you know how those things just float out there. You don't know how true it is, right?
Right.
But we all talked about, maybe there's – I think he belongs there. I think that team, unfortunately they got knocked out last night, but you bring Clay back, right? I mean, that team is still super
Yeah.
talented, and they're gonna
And
pick
they
up.
lost their center. He was
Yeah, and
like
they
a
lost
number
their
three.
center as well. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I
then
am a. They'll be good. I'm still a fan of the team, but I would take Steve Kerr. I think what's going on with Boston, so it'd be interesting for you to chime in, is lack of chemistry all year. The coach is a good coach. I think he's been tuned out quite a bit for some whatever reason. There's just something not right in that locker room, because when you've got a Gordon Hayward, right, who wanted to go to Boston and couldn't wait to get out. Al Horford couldn't wait to get out. Kyrie's on a different planet, right? He lives on
right. He
planet
doesn't count.
Planet Zippy, wherever that's right.
It's flat though. Remember,
It's flat.
it's flat.
It's flat for sure. He's worried about everything else going on in the world. We all are too, but we all still have to work, right? So,
And he didn't give his $30 million back too. Remember
right,
that.
right. He's a different cat, that's for sure. But so what are some of your thoughts real
Well,
quick on the Celtics?
my thing on Stevens, I don't know what his fantasy is with little guards. I mean,
Right, right.
Kemba Walker,
Yeah,
Pritchard. He got those two other little guys.
yeah. Waters and Tremont Waters, and
And I don't understand that because to me, there are like 6 really good coaches in the East, of which I think Brad Stevens is one of them.
yep, yep,
And every time when you get into that elite Final Four, you're going to have one of those 4 elite coaches, and
yep,
they'll take advantages of weaknesses every time. And they would always take Kemba. They'd get their switches.
yep,
They'd get a big guard on him, and he'd take him down low, and they'd
yeah,
score at will. And
yep.
and I don't understand why they do that. And I thought they've done. I mean, okay, he got Jason Tatum and they got Jaylen Brown, both number 3 picks in the draft. Okay, usually if you're getting a number 3 pick, you're probably getting a good player anyway.
Yep.
Now I think Tatum was probably the best of that draft, but
Yep.
still, the other ones they had 3 picks, and I wrote these down.
Rob Williams, right?
Back in 2016, he had that Gerson Yabusele.
Yep.
He was a 16.
Yep. Yabusele.
Romeo Langford was a 14.
Romeo. Yep.
And that Aaron Smith.
Aaron Neesmith. Yep. Came out with Pritchard last year. Yep.
You would think all 3 of those would be in your 5 to 8 range by now.
Yes.
And the only one that has potential is that the most recent one, that Aaron kid. And so it's like he really hasn't done his homework in terms of
development, rotation.
Development.
I think rotations are terrible too.
Development of skills. I mean, you got to have that.
Yep.
And so I look at that, and to me, one of the intriguing things about what he has here, I think Jason Tate. I felt like a lot of times during the season, he and Jaylen Brown would just put their head down and drive.
Yes.
They lost that chemistry of passing the ball.
100%. Yep.
And then who's the other guard that's always getting in fights? Marcus Smart.
Yes.
He just started being. They call it hero ball, I think.
Exactly. That's it. Yep.
I'm going to win this and do everything, and he's not good enough to do that. So stop it.
No, I agree. It's, remember big Kendrick Perkins, right? He's on ESPN now. So he covers pregame and postgame for the Celtics. And this goes back about a month. This includes Jason Tatum. Because if you notice Jason Tatum sometimes, he'll do the same thing. I know he's more skilled and should do it. But at the end of every half, he'll dribble the ball all the way up, bring the clock down, and just launch a 3. But now lately he's driving it to the hoop, right? So Kendrick Perkins went out and actually criticized him on Twitter in a good way. It kind of changed his game for a couple of weeks. Then he went back to the way he was playing. Right now, I think he's playing a little bit better and a little bit more focused on both ends of the floor. But to your point, that's just what they all do. They don't move the ball around a lot. And when you see them move the ball around a lot, they have a lot of success. So sometimes it's addition by subtraction. Even seeing, what's his name, Jaylen Brown out of the lineup, against Washington. they were moving the ball a little bit better, right? In that game a couple nights ago, even though I think Washington tanked, so they could get Philly of the playoffs, because Russell Westbrook never has a game that bad, right? It was like he was hungover that night. But anyways, I agree with you 100%. Too much hero ball. I feel like the team where it's at right now, if completely healthy, if you were to plug in a Doc Rivers, a Popovich, even a Spoelstra, the team would be that much better. And I like Stevens. I think he's a good coach. I think right now they need a little bit somebody to kind of shake up the locker, not be an a-hole by any means. You know, Doc Rivers has got a little bit of the new, and he will still bring in the old and hold players accountable. And I don't think Stevens is doing that enough in the locker room. And I knew Doc would be – I said when the season started, once Philly got Doc Rivers, they're going to go to the finals. And I think they probably will outside of the Nets. So I just think sometimes the coach – I know in basketball, if you got the right team, you got LeBron and Anthony Davis, one of us could probably coach him, right? Here you go, right? We always joke, though, like NBA is one of those games where you know who's going to win the finals, unlike the rest of the sports for the most part every year. Although this year I think it's a little bit up for grabs. But I just think, you know, I feel like they just need a change in the locker room at coach.
So it hadn't been talked about much, but a little bit, you know, there's been some suggestion that Brad Stevens got offered the Arizona job. You heard that?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I would have taken him in a second.
Oh God, yeah, he's so good. I mean, I'm a big fan of his, by the way, too. But it's something's really broken. You know,
I'll bet.
Yeah.
If he came here, I bet we'd be in the Final Four probably every 2 or 3 years.
But did you hear that? Did you hear that in Tucson?
Yeah, I did. I think they did offer him. Well, they offered him. Indiana offered him like $70 million or something.
Indiana offered him, and I'm hearing maybe the Pacers might make a move for him because I think they're going to make another coaching change potentially. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see where this all lands.
What I think the Celtics need to do is they need to sit down with a couple doctors and really do an assessment about the long-term medical history of Robert Williams.
Yeah.
Because once they make that decision, well, but he's not real smart. I think his defense. He doesn't see that.
I agree. He's gotten better this year, but he's never, like to your point, he's never healthy enough to stay in and sustain it.
But I think you have to make that decision. First, because I think you got to make a change at the point guard, and I think you got to get something better in the post. And so, if Robert Williams is going to be okay, then you make a move on the point guard situation.
Yeah.
And if he's not, then you're going to have to play it a couple different ways. And one of the things that have been intrigued with, the Pelicans have been playing Zion Williamson at point. And I've looked at that, and I think Tatum is smart enough to play that, and that would force him to engage more of the team. And I think they could be better with that. And they've got that. Then they could sign that European player, Evan Fournier.
Yeah, I like Evan Fournier.
And then
he's finally playing good.
Jaylen Brown, and then you have that Aaron
Nesmith. Yep.
To try to have him come off the bench, and then Jabari Parker to see because he's cheap.
Parker, and I don't know what Romeo needs. Maybe a kick in the rear end because Danny was so high on him. But I hear he gets kind of crappy with Brad too, and you just can't have that kind of attitude. It just kills the chemistry.
But I thought that would be.
I really think the best thing the Celtics could do would be make a trade with the Suns, because it seems like if you go from the Celtics to the Suns or the Suns to the Celtics, you end up in the top 10 best players of all time for either team.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at that relationship.
It's funny. I'll make you laugh. So obviously, watching the games, going back and forth with Mikey G and some of my other friends from Boston that live out here and stuff. And I remember about midway through this season, a buddy of mine, Blaze, he sent me a text. He said, "Would you trade Tatum for Booker?" I'm like, "Nah, I wouldn't do it." And then like a month later, I'm like, "I'm all over it. Let's make that happen," because one's an alpha dog and one is not. And I know that Kawhi Leonard's a stud, but he just plays with that quiet presence. That's Jason Tatum. He's not going to change. I'm more of a little bit more fire in the belly, not too crazy or anything. That alpha dog mentality. I think Booker has it. I also love a guy like Jimmy Butler. Makes a big difference on a team. I don't see that leadership on Boston.
I just go back to the Paul Silas, Paul Westfalls, Danny Ainges.
But the trades, I know. Nobody wants to trade with Danny anymore, though.
Charlie Scott went from the Suns.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
Charlie
yes.
Scott. You're right. I forgot about Charlie Scott,
I
Garv.
mean, all these different guys that played for the Suns and the Celtics that went to either team, it made a difference on both teams. I think there's some chemistry. Hey, listen, you can do all the scientific analysis
They did.
you want.
They did. We got the rings, right?
Yes.
Right, Art? We got
when
the
it's
rings.
all over, we got the rings from those. Paul Silas was a mainstay on those Dave Cowan's teams.
Crazy. Hey, let's switch over. I'd like to talk a little bit. You guys have to be dialed into to football as well on the U of A side, right? So,
well, we know we're the greatest tight end.
Right, I was just going to bring that up, right? Right, and not a bad linebacker in Teddy Bruschi either, right?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah,
So-
didn't he play for a team somewhere in New England?
He
somewhere?
did.
I can't
he did
remember.
for a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, where would the New England Patriots be if it wasn't for the University of Arizona?
Hey,
That's right.
I wouldn't disagree with those are two, honestly. So both are, Gronk's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. Both are Patriot Hall of Famers. They have their own Hall of Fame, of course. But when I looked, did you guys see that crazy helicopter drop to Gronk to catch
Guinness Book of World Record?
That is so Gronk.
Isn't it?
I mean, it's so Gronk.
He's just, I don't know. To me, he's one, right, obviously, nobody likes a team that continues to win, and then you throw in the cheating and everything else. Everybody hates. He's probably the only guy on the Patriots that everybody still likes.
Yeah.
Right? Doesn't he just feel like he has that way personality to him? He's just a big old Jethro, right? Big old lunk out there wanting to have fun. And he's
I
the same
remember
in Tampa.
when they said, "Why did you choose the U of A to go to?" And he said, "Well, I went to this really cool pool party, and I thought they have all these pool parties out here, so with all these women and stuff."
Yeah.
That was Gronk.
That's definitely a Gronk thing, isn't it? That is so true. So where is this program headed now, do you think? Is it got a long ways to go, or
Oh yeah,
the football team?
Look, I just from my perspective, I think if we're 7-5, 8-4, perennially, maybe get lucky and get a 9-3. That's pretty much as good as it gets down here.
Yeah.
Unlike Dana keeps believing we're going to go to the Rose Bowl. In fact, we wanted.
I'm a believer. That is a life ambition.
We wanted to have a bet, and the loser had to buy the Rose Bowl tickets. But the problem is, we'll all be dead before that happens. So we couldn't figure out how to cash that in.
You know, the funny thing about that people forget is that Dick Tomey had a 12-1 team that lost one stinking game the whole year. And we didn't go to the Rose Bowl because we lost to UCLA, but UCLA didn't have it locked up. And there was some question who was going to go. The conference got to pick. And Miami and UCLA had a game canceled because of a hurricane, and they played the game like in November or something, and UCLA won it. And so the one time we actually had a top 10 team that it was a bona fide Rose Bowl team.
Did you guys?
We got technicaled out of the game.
Did you guys know the guy Rob Waldrop?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't seen Rob in years, but one of my best friends, Tom Ruffino, owned a gym out here, and he trained at the gym with us. And I think he moved on, right? He went on to Kansas City for maybe a season or two, and then he was done, right?
Yeah.
His name just came to mind as we were talking U of A football. Yeah.
No, I think he's one of those guys. I think he's in the Arizona Sports Hall of Fame. He was I think maybe Conference Player of the Year.
He was good. I know he was good when he played. Yeah, he was a beast. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Well, when this Jed Fisher, the new coach, got hired, there were a lot of people that were very negative on it because he doesn't have. He has never been a head coach. He's kind of gone around, in the pros, in college. He was with the Patriots for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right.
He's done a lot of little stuff. And I think there was some poll that came out from CBS that said of the top 60 64 coaches. He was 63 in terms of his experience.
Wow.
He was head of the South Carolina coach. But he has done a tremendous job of energizing Tucson. I mean, the whole thing with having Gronk come to town and catch that pass.
Yeah.
He got Teddy Bruschi on the staff. He's got Rick Hundley on the staff. He's got Chuck Cecil on the staff. Those are all.
Oh wow, I forgot about Chuck Cecil.
They
Yeah.
are
Blast
all
from the past.
U of A legends, and
Yeah.
now they're there. And Garvey made this comment once about, if you're in Arizona and Chuck Cecil or Ricky Hundley or Teddy Bruschi comes into your living room and to talk to your dad about your kid playing for Arizona, that's going to make a difference in Arizona. Now, there aren't a whole lot of elite Division I players in Arizona, but
Yeah.
I think he's going the right way. But having said all of that, I mean, we'll just have to see if he's gotten good people in the positions to coach. I mean, that's what we'll just have to see. And getting back to developing skills. I will say one thing. Some of the local talk show coach people have commented about his practices when they had that spring ball and how much better organized they were. They were very efficient. They were very structured. They were so much better than what we had with Sumlin, and that's a good sign.
Yeah.
But still, having said all of that, there is very, very little talent on that. I mean,
they
this
just don't have
this incoming class was ranked 11th out of the 12 in the Pac-12. I don't think we have
ranking schmankings. I mean, Dana Campbell has got more to say about that, and I totally disagree. This team could be a good team, don't you think, Dana?
Well, I would say this. I would say this. First of all, the Rose Bowl is not out of the realm of possibilities for the University of Arizona. It will happen one day, and I hope it's in my lifetime.
I love the positive attitude, Dana.
Absolutely. I think that's right. And I think that the thing is that people hopefully in the community will feel better about it. I think that Sumlin just really was sucking the energy out of the community. There was no feeling of community within the community. And I think that you just look at the spring game and what they did. Fish has done a fantastic job with that. He's got a defensive coordinator that's got incredible history in Don Brown and plays an exciting style of defense. I mean, we may lose games this year 70-7 again, but it's going to be exciting doing it because he blitzes like 50% of the time and has got so many different looks on defense. It's going to be a situation where it's going to take a little time, but if you get the community involved, in 3 or 4 or 5 years, it could be something pretty special. And he's got like Art was saying, he's got some of the best people in the history of the program. And let's face it, that's something that's lost. I mean, we have had a lot of positive tradition and it's important to remember it. And he's got people there that'll help do that and get the community excited. And there's, you look at this and it's easy to miss, but the basketball programs played it at such a high level, led the conference in attendance for 20 plus years, more like 30 plus years. There's no reason why. It's a college town. There's no reason why it can't be a rabid program, just like the University of Oregon in terms of the community. And with that, success. It's a relationship thing. They go hand in hand. But I just hope the community will come out. It's probably going to be a tough year this year. It might be a 2-10 season's not necessarily a failure, especially if you get young players some experience and you start getting the community involved. This is
how these guys operate, Rob. I'm telling you, Art and Dana. So in the study group, and we were talking about the emotionally imbalanced group of law students, these guys always projected the worst, and they always projected like rock bottom. So anything better than 2, it's a winning season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hey, I was just going to butt in on Dana and disagree with him. I think this team can win 4 games. I think they play 3 games preseason. The first game is BYU in Vegas, I think. That's a loss. But the other one of them is the Lumberjacks, the Fighting Lumberjacks from NAU, and the other one I think is a
Oh, there you
comparable
go.
team.
There
So
you
I
go.
think so that's 2-1 going into conference, and I think
Well, I
we
got
can
San
win 2
Diego
games.
State. San Diego State's not easy. That's going to be a tough game.
Oh, okay. I thought it was easier than that. Well, maybe
No.
there'll be 1 and 2, but I still think 4 games. This college. You don't.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, you probably know the answer to this, but besides all the contributions that the University of Arizona has made to the Super Bowl, with Teddy Bruschi
And Gronk. Yeah.
and Gronk and whatnot, but you know who the first band was that played at the very first Super Bowl is, don't you?
I don't.
It's the Pride of Arizona.
Ah.
Well, but there's more to it. It's a sharing. Okay, so
But I mean, it's a heck of a lot better than the Weekend, and I'm thinking that the NFL should be listening to your podcast right now and bring in the Pride of Arizona this year.
I think you brought that up in a conversation before to me, Garvey.
Yeah.
I think that came up before because I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Well, Dana knows the history of how the University of Arizona marching band became the first Super Bowl band ever at the first Super Bowl. But Dana, you might want to extol on that a little bit.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the pregame for the first Super Bowl was the Grambling State marching band in the University of Arizona marching band. And halftime was the University of Arizona marching band and the University of Michigan marching band. And what people don't realize is the guy named Jack Lee, who actually wrote Bear Down Arizona, was the first college marching band to march in formation, like in shapes.
Wow.
Nobody had ever done that. Jack Lee actually was the person that brought that to college bands.
I like that.
Pretty wild.
That is wild.
And what's even wilder is the guy was still the director of bands when I was in college. I mean, he'd been there like 1,000 years. It's just,
wow.
I don't know. It went on forever. I think until the 90s.
So your daughter's going to a university with rich history and long standing.
I like it. I love it, actually. Yeah.
Honestly,
we're real excited. She's excited too, to be honest with you. So, because it's it's nice and close for us to go up there and catch some games and kind of
far enough away that she can get in trouble without you guys knowing about it.
Yeah. Well, I've got multiple trackers on her, Art, so I don't know how far she know. But yeah. So real quick, because then I just want to swing over to basketball before we kind of close everything out, and then I want you guys to I'll tell you what I'll ask for towards the end, because I want to get a little bit of your thoughts on the Suns and the Lakers. But as we're on football still, real quick, because you guys all still follow the pros, right?
Yeah.
So the 5 kids that came out of the draft, the quarterbacks, like just some thoughts on, did you feel like I'll start by saying I think Trevor Lawrence is overhyped. I'm going to be interesting to see how Trey Lance does with San Francisco. I'm not sure Justin Fields is the right fit for Chicago. I hope they all work out because it's just great for all of us in the NFL. But you guys got any early kind of like gut feeling on how these players are going to turn out? Like, I think, Trevor Lawrence, under Urban Meyer, is that going to work down there? Is he already losing the locker room because he's bringing in Tebow for a 1-year contract? There's so many things going on. And out of the 5 quarterbacks, I think there might be 1 or 2 surprises in terms of I didn't expect them to be this good, and I think there's going to be 1, 2, maybe even 3 disappointments. Any thoughts?
I would say if you had to say, are you pro or con on this group? I'd say con. I think that at most you're going to have 2 that are successful.
Right? I agree.
Yeah, I really think that's
1 to 2. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really hard when you've had a team like Clemson to play on, and then you go play on a not a good team.
Oh my God, that's so true. And I don't know, and I like him a lot, by the way. So I'll just say that, not as if I know the guy, but I'm hoping they all do well. I don't feel like he's a real passionate football type of guy too, and that's kind of what I've heard. like Super Bowls, winning a Super Bowl is not the end all be all for him. And I'm just not a fan of comments like that. Again, that's just me. I feel like, not everybody's Tom Brady, but that guy still likes practicing, for crying out loud. So you got to have some passion in the blood, and that's just kind of how I feel. I can't remember his name now. Who's the kid that went to the Jets? He looks like he's a junior in high school still.
Oh yeah.
Why am I drawing a blank on his name? He looks like a baby, doesn't he? Still, I mean, it's like he's so little too. I'm like, how long is he gonna last? So
the thing about the quarterback, I mean, as far as football, that is the investment. You have to get the quarterback. That's the
yep,
biggest influencer on your team. So it seems to me you would want to, but these teams don't do this. You would want them to sit on the bench for a year, let them, because that jump from college to pros
yep.
is incredible.
Especially the type of program you come from too, right?
Yeah, and if you're going to spend the money and the time because you're going to get a good quarterback, you better have a good line. You
Yep,
better have somebody ahead of them that's going to play at least 3/4 of a season before
yep.
they start seeing games. You gotta give them a chance to succeed. And some of these people are just going to get thrown into the fire. And
They're gonna get hurt,
yeah,
Well, I was going to say just that. The thing that's sad is I had Joe Burrow in my fantasy.
Oh, I love Joe
And
Burrow.
that
Yeah,
guy was coming on. He was
wasn't
doing
he?
great. And he got busted up
Yeah,
really bad.
he did. He did. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
It's funny. So there's a lot of controversy in New England because they just signed Brian Hoyer and everybody wants Kemba. I personally was hoping to get Mac Jones just because I think he's the right fit for New England system. They like to have that more cerebral, strategic, almost like Brady was a game manager, right? For his first 10 years, for the most part. It's like, don't turn the ball over, make plays when you need to, and then let the defense do the rest. So I think that kid could step in just because he's coming from Alabama, right? It's more of a, I don't know, closer to the pros, if you will, program. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. It's going to be interesting to see if Cam Newton improves at all from last year. And I was actually pulling for the guy. I know that he had COVID. I know he didn't get signed till July and had to learn the playbook, but I just don't see it. So I think if they go into the season, they get a pretty soft first three games before they play Tampa. And if for whatever reason they're like 0-2 or 1-3, then I'm ready to make the change and get him in there, provided he knows
how
that.
do you think they're going to do?
I think they're going to be a playoff team, believe it or not. I don't think they're going to win the division. So I was going to say 10-6, but there's 17 games now. So I think they'll probably be like around 10-7-ish, maybe on the verge of a wild card. I think Bill's got a lot of pressure on him this year, but they did have a lot of opt-outs last year. He did a great job with free agency. And as long as right, we all know this, as long as everybody stays healthy, the defense is still, pretty damn solid. Plus the additions that he had with free agency, Hightower's back. I think they'll contend this year. I do. Not a Super Bowl team by any means, but I think they could, and we'll see where Buffalo ends up this year, right? The playbook's out on Buffalo now. Can they, I always like to see a team consistently do it every year, right? You can have a great season. Can you have a great 2, 3, 4 seasons? So we'll see. I think Buffalo's coached well. I'm still not sold on the quarterback too much. I think his turnovers went down quite a bit last year for Buffalo towards the end. I think he's good, but we'll see. So I think there's a potential shot at the division too, provided the defense is there and, we do okay on offense. So.
Art and Dana's being pretty nice here to the host and everything today, but not to rub anything in. But another important little trivial thing come out of U of A was they invented a sandwich back in Philly called the Philly Special, and it came right out of Nicky Foles. And you haven't mentioned
the Super Bowl at the Super Bowl, right?
Oh yeah, that's a Super Bowl.
Nicky Foles, yeah, nice, yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nick Foles, went to Austin West. I live in Texas, and he went to Austin Westlake High School, and was not recruited by the University of Texas. There's another quarterback from his high school, Austin Westlake, that is also a Super Bowl MVP that was not recruited by the University of Texas.
Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
Wow.
Yeah, can you imagine that? You got two kids in a high school that literally is in the shadows of the University of Texas, and neither one was recruited. Unbelievable.
And Foles did he go to Jacksonville as a backup or the Jets?
I don't know where he's at right now.
Yeah, he's gone, right? He's gone from Chicago because they picked up the Red Rifle, right? Dalton, Justin Fields. Where the heck did Foles go? I think he might have went to Jacksonville.
Let's all agree.
I'm lost. There's been so much.
One really special game in that.
Yeah, and he did it. I mean, he did it. I'll always give somebody credit. He played fantastic. You know,
he did. The passing,
he deserved it. He deserved
perfect.
it. You know what? You know, what will always bug me is, you know, the whole, you know, sitting down Butler. You know, Bill play Butler. Would it have made a difference? Who knows? You know, I don't even. And Brady had a phenomenal game too. He threw for over 500 yards.
He did. That was no kidding.
You can, you know, in being a New England guy, obviously, you could go up and down all 6 Super Bowls that they've had. And the 3 that they lost that they could have won, and then there's probably 3 to 4 that they won that they could have lost, right? Because if outside of the one Super Bowl, I feel like they pretty much dominated, even though the score didn't show it, was against the Rams, the most recent one. It was the most boring, right?
It was.
It just seemed like the Rams were never in it. Was it 13-3? Was that the final?
Yeah, it was.
Right.
It was a boring game, and nobody wanted to watch.
It was terrible, but you had the Eagles game was close. Both Giants games were close.
Yeah.
The Rams game, right? I mean, you think about them all. I mean, the Panthers, the Eagles twice, right? So the first one against the Eagles. So they've all been close, so they could go either way. But one may never know until somebody writes a book. So
I saw Nick Foles get hit, I think, about 9 times by Ndamukong Suh in the Holiday Bowl.
Sue.
We lost 38-0. I was there in the sleet and rain, like Lieutenant Dan sitting on the mast. I was there to the bitter end. It cost me about $1,800 to take my 2 sons and over there for the Holiday Bowl, and it was a terrible game. But I always thought, man, that guy is one tough son of a gun. I mean,
absolutely.
He just kept getting hit time after time.
Well, he seems like a good old boy too, right? He doesn't complain, right? He likes to play. He's got a passion for the game. There's no question about that. Just doesn't have the skill set of some of the other quarterbacks, unfortunately.
I looked him up. He says
I liked him.
He's still signed with the Bears through 2022.
He is. Okay. Thanks for looking. I wasn't sure if he moved out of there or not. So they're at 3 quarterbacks over there now. Interesting.
Well, I've
thrown
every little grenade I could throw into this thing today, and I haven't got a reaction. I thought I was going to get like a Tommy DeVito reaction out of the Nick Foles.
No, hey, you know me long enough. We have fun going back and forth, but I'm not the a-hole New England guy. I'm a realist, trust me. You know that, but we do have fun going back and forth for sure. Hey, real quick on football, how do you guys feel about Tampa going into this season? They
it's so hard to repeat.
It's so hard to repeat. Obviously, right? We can all say this. As long as they stay healthy, like, what can they do? But he's got all his weapons back. They're going to have a full off season, right? Now he understands, like, that playbook was reinvented like probably 2 or 3 times before the last 4 games of the season. And then him and Brady and Arians weren't getting along for a little bit of time. I mean, you go from Arians, the party coach, from Bill Belichick, who's the complete very military on the opposite ends, but it worked. It worked at the end. And, hey, they had a tough game against Washington too. So in the playoffs, people, forget that Washington actually could have had a shot in that game. It was realistic, but I'm going to be interesting to see how they do this year and if Brady does drop off.
Well, the defensive coordinator for Tampa Bay should get a lot of credit, I think.
A ton. That defense is scary good. A ton.
And I just think that those 2 coaches work hand in hand so well. One leaves off
They
the other
do.
one.
Well, look,
Yeah.
I mean, the culture's changed in that locker room now, right? And as long as they don't come out too cocky, and I honestly don't think that'll happen because Brady doesn't operate that way, right? We're starting from square one. We're not as good as the opponent. I mean, that's just kind of part of their, his whole repertoire, which works, and they believe in him. So, anything he says or does, they're going to follow suit with. But yeah, it is tough to repeat. Can
I
they go
thought
17-0 and then go to the playoffs? I mean,
I'm hoping it's like the Cardinals and the Browns this year in the Super Bowl. So, somebody that's never done it before wins one.
hey, I'm all for that too. I'm all for that. Trust
Hey,
me.
come on. How about the Lions? They're like one of the original
Oh.
NFL teams.
All right. All right? Come on now. Is that coach a knucklehead or what? We're going to bite people's kneecaps off. We're going to get knocked down. We're going to get back up. We're going to bite the kneecaps off. You know what he wants to do? He wants to walk around practice with a flipping lion. He says, I know I can't pull it off. He wants an actual lion. Honest to God. He wants a lion on a leash that he can walk around practice with.
That's crazy.
He's a tool.
That's a good trivia question. What team's colors are modeled on the Detroit Lions?
Come on, Dana.
They came from Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, because in the late 50s,
that makes sense.
The late 50s, the Lions are good, and they had a number of SMU guys, and so they were very popular, and that's where that color combination came from. It's interesting. People forget this too. There was a Dallas team before the Cowboys that actually lasted all of one season.
I had no idea.
Were they the Colt 45s?
They ultimately became the Colts. Yeah.
What? What were they?
The Dallas Texans 1 year played in the Cotton Bowl, just went nowhere. But yeah.
I told you he's going to baffle us, Rob. I mean,
I like
he's going to baffle us.
Hey.
People are going to go people when we listen to this podcast, they're going to could you get that Dana guy back on there? Because I think he's got his facts wrong.
I love that stuff. You know me, I'm a sports junkie. I love hearing stuff I've never heard of before.
New York Yankees, yeah.
I love it. Yankees, huh? Nice. Yeah. So Cardinals fan, do you guys follow the Cardinals as well, or?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I know Garvey. You do, of course. That's your team.
Yeah, I mean, you wait all your life for a team, and then now you got four of them right here in Phoenix. We're loaded in Phoenix with everything. We got everything here now, right?
Well, I think the teams are all got, for the most part, the Diamondbacks aren't showing much right now. Where they like 10 and 28 or whatever the heck
they lost 9 in a row, 8 or 9 in a row,
28 or something, 10 under 500. I've got the numbers wrong, but yeah.
But I got the COVID. I got the season ticket since 1998. Been a season ticket holder, but I decided, with this COVID thing, I'm just going to roll it over to 2022 because this team is really not working.
No, they're like that. That team tends to ride a roller coaster. I think. The Coyotes.
What do they average attendance wise, Garvey?
Yeah.
Well, what are they allowed to have? I mean, you can't really gauge attendance because it's like 5,000.
But pre-COVID,
Pre-COVID,
what do they average?
Oh, we had, I don't know, I think about 11 or 12,000.
I was going to say 12. Yeah, I'd guess.
Yeah, I was going to say about 11 or 12. And that was at the end, but that was when their teams weren't that good. But we were there when it was 30 and 28 to 30 and 32,000. Hey, I'm wearing my 2001 World Series.
Yep, they've got a World Series, right?
Can you believe it's been 20 years?
That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks, they got. Hey, there's a Boston connection for you, right?
Yep, with the coach. Yep.
The coaches and the general manager.
Yeah.
Those poor guys. What they got to work with?
Well, what the heck's his name? I'm trying to think of his name now. What's the coach's name? It's on the tip of my tongue.
Lovolo?
Torey Lovolo. Yeah. I wanted him when, last year it was barely a season, right? It was so different season, right? Of course. But the Dodgers deserved to win, and they won. But with Cora gone, and they used an interim coach with the Red Sox, I'm like, why didn't they just keep – this is when I wish they had Lovolo. Lovolo was already gone. And because I always thought he was a good coach. So I do think they get a good coach. They just need to get more talent in there.
Mike Hazen, but it's hard to do it with an owner that
they don't
owners just got to loosen it up. They got to spend some money.
You got to spend, especially this is a very, coming from where I'm from, of course, this is a very transient state, as we all know, and everybody's from somewhere else. We all have our allegiances and our loyalties, but I still pull for the home teams here as well. But in order to win fans over, you got to have the season the Suns had way back in the day when Barkley was here. Everybody was going crazy. I loved putting on the Suns guard back. That was so much fun. They did well when they had, what's his name? The year that they won the World Series with
Randy Johnson
and Schilling. Yeah. And that was
there was another gift to Boston. There was another gift to Boston we made,
Right.
I mean, the city of Phoenix has made more gifts to the city of Boston than you can shake a stick at.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, I think 3 out of the 4 best teams in baseball right now are the Padres, the Giants, and the Dodgers. I mean, those guys spent the money and they got the players and they've got the teams and how are we going to compete with that in the West?
Hey! I'm the Giant fan here, and they spent no money. I mean, they've got a but like the guy that pitched last night. They lost the Dodgers. Alex Wood, incredible season. Had an area of 5.5 the last 2 years, but they've found good people. But you're right, the Dodgers and Padres have spent so much money. I think the Diamondbacks are smart now.
Well, they're doing what the Yankees and Red Sox do. Even the Red Sox payroll is a lot lower, but they get the second best record in baseball right now. So I think a lot of it too is culture and chemistry. I preach that a lot with everything. I think it falls into leadership and everyday life. And when they plugged Cora back in at Boston, the players love him. They love playing for him, and now they're having fun again. Right? They hit home runs. And they could jump in one of those laundry baskets and they get wheeled down. They do. They wheel each other. That's their thing this year, which is cool. I'll watch a team like that all day long, even if they lose. They're passionate about playing. They bring it every single damn game, win or lose. And those are the teams I think we all grow to love. Yeah, we want the championships and everything else. We all do. But I'd rather watch a team like that versus a team that's, like we were talking about with basketball earlier. Playing ISO, not getting along. They're fragmented in the locker room. They don't listen to I don't want to see it. I'd rather see the little engine that could, out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Effort, in all honesty. So I think culture and chemistry mean a lot in the locker room. So let's, before we close up, I wanted to get you guys' thoughts. Do the Suns have a chance against the Lakers?
Absolutely.
What do you think? I've talked about getting a bad draw to start out. A phenomenal season, right? The teams.
You have to beat them. You have to beat the best to be the best. Come on, you may as well beat them early.
I know. The Lakers are favored in the series.
Are they really?
As a 7 seed.
Wow. Well, championship's gone through LeBron.
It does.
That's the way it's always
been. It just
been.
does. It just works. Basketball works that way, right? You get the best 1 or 2 players. We'll see if the Lakers do go on and get out of the West, which unfortunately I feel like they will. If they get past Phoenix, I think they're going to roll. I'm not that confident in the rest of the teams in the West. Utah reminds me of Milwaukee. They're a great regular season team and not so much in the playoffs. And then it's going to be the Nets or the Sixers on the other side. So we'll see. I hope they can pull it off the Suns.
And a lot of that's going to play on injuries.
Absolutely.
I think the Nets need all 3 of their horses.
Yeah. Yep.
And if one of them gets hurt, I don't think they'll get past. Yeah.
No. So, we'll see. We'll see if my Celtics can keep it within 20 tonight. I'll be checked up by halftime. So we'll see. Hopefully they do it. Hey, before we close up, with anything else that you guys wanted to share, or just I don't know if you guys want to share some kind of a fun thing or busted chops type thing.
Should we all sing "Bear Down Arizona" from start to finish so Rob has the lyrics down perfect? We don't want to have him embarrass his daughter down there singing some ASU fight song or something else. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say, it's too bad we don't have Nick here, but I was going to say, you know how you really know the difference between U of A and ASU, and this is a fact, is that we're at a wedding reception, and the bride's a U of A girl, the groom's an ASU guy, and all of a sudden, just a chorus of bear down. No response from the ASU people. Not a peep. Nothing. And that really says it all, I think. That's just the difference. I mean, they'll tell you all about 70-7, but do they know their school fights on? No.
Well, it was an aberration. It was COVID. And that's all you have to say about that.
About the 70-7? No,
yeah, it's COVID. It doesn't
Kevin
count.
Someone. It was Kevin someone.
COVID.
Yeah, I think different year this year, though, right? Luckily, things look a lot better. Things are opening up. It's good to have some normalcy. It will be good to have some normalcy, for sure.
Right. So we'll see.
Hey, Rob, thanks a lot for having us today.
Guys, no, this has been a blast, in all honesty. I love it. I feel like, we get a group together. It could be all over the place. I'm like, no, it's kind of like you're sitting at the bar, you're having a drink or whatever, and you're just having a conversation about sports and bringing up whatever's on your mind. And we'll definitely do it again. Maybe we bring in Nick for the next one too. We could probably do that, right? Get another one in there, and
we could watch his finger point.
And you can have him do this. And sometimes if Dana really upsets him, he'll get a little bit of spittle right between his lips, and he'll say something. Yeah, and Nick will really start shaking his finger.
Yeah, let's thank Nick. Let's thank Nicky V, as I call him, for putting this all together.
Thanks.
And I appreciate that. But it's been a blast, and so maybe one of these days we should be able to get together down the road. I mean.
All right.
Like I said, I'm going to be down to U of A a lot over the next however long she's going to school. She's going to medical. She wants to be a pediatrician, so she's got many years ahead of her. And
you're going to be working a long time.
I am. Yeah. I'm playing that. I got to go get my Powerball right after this. That's for sure. But we went to. I wish I could remember the name of the place we had breakfast at. It was like a brewery place, right, sitting right at the corner.
Gentle Ben's?
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an Arizona institution.
That's what I've for those I've talked to. That's what I hear. Yeah. Yeah.
It was not physically in that location though.
And I was at the right place. I didn't even know it. So from what I hear, that's a hot spot, which is kind of cool.
You just keep her out of dirt bags. You'll keep her away from guys like Nick and Art and Dana.
God. Yes, many a night we would circle the wagons there.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, though, right? And that's the experience you want to have. So
greatest place in the world to go to school.
I love
best
it.
People, best times.
I love it. We're really happy. We get a good vibe, and when I hear from all of you and others that have gone there, and my cousin Michael, his Vincent, right? Vincent's about to graduate from U of A, and I've got some other cousins that have gone through there as well. So, it's crazy. My daughter Madison. I don't even know how it just, for whatever reason, it could be through the cousins since sixth grade. Really? She had her mind made up that she wanted to go to U of A, and then she always wanted to go into medical. She was deciding between either, being a plastic surgeon, but more for people that really need it, like burn victims and things like that, versus, the stuff that you don't. Of course, that goes with it, right? But she's more about helping people because she was born as a preemie. So she was in a NICU unit, when she was born, and went through all of that. And they go back once a year, it's kind of like a celebration for those that made it out. And so she's always had this thing where I want to help others, I want to help kids, and that's kind of where she's kind of always gone down the pediatrician path. So it's kind of a road that she chose for herself, which is a good feeling, for us.
Great.
And my wife. Yeah.
That's an amazing story, Rob.
Yeah. So
you did good.
Yeah.
Or maybe your wife did good. I don't know.
Now my little one, right. Yeah. I'll give her all the credit. And my little one, Adriana, who's 11, she's going down the path that you guys are all lawyers. So he's had a mindset on being a lawyer, but she said she wants to go to a college, and my young one loves California. So she's hell bent on getting over there to do her schooling when she gets out, which is not for some time now. So,
Yes,
which
you
is
will
good.
be working a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah. I got to work on some other things, Might get into bank robbing. You guys probably seen the town. I'm gonna do something like that. You guys want in on it? Just let me know. I'll put the plan together.
I'm in. I'm in.
All right, guys. Thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
All right.
I will catch up with you guys down the road. Appreciate everything. Thank you.
All
See you
right.
later.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right. So there you go. Thanks to Dana, Art, and Garvey once again. Hope you all enjoy the show this week. Please remember to subscribe on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, whatever you're listening to. Please also see us at the Rob's Real and Ridiculous podcast on my YouTube channel. This will be uploaded to that. Tweet me your thoughts on the show. Tweet me anything else you want to send me at r1bolt55. Tweet me at r1bolt55. Most of all, enjoy the weekend. A lot of great stuff going on with sporting events. Some great boxing on tonight, Saturday night, May 22nd. Almost forgot the date here. It's been one of those weeks. Great boxing tonight. We've got playoff basketball going on as I speak. NHL playoffs going on as I speak. There's some really good golf going on. Great golf tournament going on this weekend, as many of you know that follow golf. We've got some great baseball going on. We've got places, as I mentioned towards the end of the show, places are opening up now. Things are looking a lot brighter across the country, which is great to see. Let's hope that continues to happen. So with that all said, be safe, enjoy. I will see you all next week. Take care now.